All right, boobies. I have been on a ride for when it comes to the kind of like, I want to say settling down, right? So the whole month I've been moving. I've been adjusting to being in Jamaica, in the area that I'm in right now. And there's a certain harmony behind, like, I don't know. I'm definitely enjoying being here. I'm looking forward to actually like making some money. I don't know if I have the opportunity to make money now, but I'm actually like building a website for somebody. It's a process, and I'm taking my time with it because I love it. And from now till when I start actually coding, I would have been like, I would have, I would be done with a lot when it comes to my website. So I cannot explain how, right now, at the end of the day, how beautiful it feels that I have spent about 6 to 7 hours today just like working on my code. And I was really just like questioning everything that's there. It is amazing. I was talking about this, I think, in a couple of videos ago. That I remember when I was actually like every day, like programming and coding. What effectively I did was I just sat in front of the computer and like, because I kind of like know what I have to do, right? So I have to like, first the user comes and he signs in. Okay, that was set up. And then after that, the user basically has to go and check his profile. And that got set up today. But then I had a debate with myself, like, so programming is basically just a transfer of information, right? Like everything we see in front of us is a transfer of information, and each part from the computer all the way to where the data is stored speaks a different language. It's the easiest way to explain it. And so, like, and in between, you kind of have to like be able to engage with all these different languages and to understand them and to harmonize behind them. A big part of me really doesn't like doing the same thing twice. Although I know full on that doing the same thing twice is literally what makes it like smooth, what makes it better, and like what evolves it. Well, for me personally, I have been having a small issue. I say small. It's because these are the things that kind of like trip you while you're actually walking. So my issue is just it's a generic. I know what I can tell when a code is actually just not enough. And how do I say not enough? The logic behind it is not really. It could be better. It could be done better. It could be done better. That's the best way for me to say this. And my issue is like I know it could be done better, so I kind of want to do it better. But the problem with that is kind of like you take a lot of time and eventually kind of like feel frustrated because you're not actually moving. And the only way your mind understands something is off, but it's still not there yet, right? Because you're still developing. So it understands something is off and understands that you can do it differently. And there are multiple ways you can approach it. But it has to like build towards that. Now, it's funny because I say that because ultimately the consistency that you contribute to it every day is what allows the confidence to rise and allows the mental image of yourself and the programming that you're doing to kind of like level up. So I can't stress how exhausted I am today. Like, I actually like I did my walk, I do everything. I had a weird today. I noticed something about coffee, and as much as I like coffee, I think drinking it too early has a different effect. It jolts your body instead of allows your body to kind of like harmonize. And I think I think Andrew Huberman talks about this. It's like if you don't drink coffee like early in the morning, you have to drink it sometime around like 2 to 3 hours after you wake up. And now I understand his reasoning differently because the way I was interacting with coffee is more like a flavor, like put something in your mouth. But the reality is, before your body is fully like I noticed that while I was walking, like there was difference between I was walking normally and when I had my coffee, I started kind of like some muscles got more tense based on like history of like just like history of not necessarily like doing things right. So the whole point of the walk is to be able to balance and to kind of like have your body kind of like do its thing and get used to this again, and then like heal and build yourself to a better level through the actual walk. It's the conditioning factor of it. And coffee kind of like stands in the way. But then everything is like a habit. It was a weird kind of like habit. It's like while I'm walking in the morning, I want to have some coffee. And now I have to start thinking about it differently. And I made a video about that, the difference between love and addiction. And now it goes like, yeah, I love the flavor of coffee, but I'd rather have it maybe in the afternoon. So then it actually like tastes good. I had one today as well in the afternoon. It tastes good, it feels good. And if you're intensely focused on something, that is when coffee kind of like gives you that extra drive. But I feel when it comes to me, the first 4 to 5 hours of the day, I have to build the confidence of me being kind of like existent with the world and whatever it is I'm doing. So that coffee kind of like adds to the flow. Instead of just like before I start anything, I have coffee and that what happens, it kind of like spazzes me because there's no direction to go. So suddenly it kind of flows. It just kind of like starts throwing energy left and right. That's a good way to actually look at it. It's like once I actually start being in the zone of doing something, then when I feel like I want some coffee, then at the very least it contributes to whatever made me feel I needed coffee. If I just wake up in the morning for the sake of coffee, then the mental state that I'm in, kind of like still looking at the day and thinking about what it wants to do. And with coffee, it's like thinking 10 times faster, which is not how the mind kind of like makes good decisions. The better decisions are always made in a calm space or like on the spot instantly. So like that's not something you kind of want to condition yourself early in the morning to be like jumping left and right and doing. So that's fun. It's a fun way of looking at it. I'm definitely gonna be trying. I'm definitely gonna be trying it tomorrow. But other than that, I I don't know. I don't know. The conversations I've been having about like the mental setup of how I will slowly but surely kind of like achieve the skill sets that I'm working on. Like I just finished my today's hiragana. Super cute, right? So I'll do this until it gets boring. And then after it gets boring, I start basically finding articles online. And then I basically copy them. And as I copy them, I like pronounce them out loud. Because one point, and I talked about this, at one point, I talked about this like 4 months ago. It's a good thing I remember. But so what happens is I kind of like do an activity until it's boring. And the minute it's boring, it's because I'm way too comfortable in it. And then after that, I kind of like engage with it from a different angle. So right now, I just grabbed the guitar and I made a bet with myself that by the end of the month, I'm going to be able to play one song. And I don't care how I play, and it's probably not going to be as good as I would want it to be. But the focus on that song, and by that, every day, playing that song, playing its scale, just going around and exploring all the different kinds of notes, because like there's a system behind it. It's math. It's the guitar is the guitar strings are spread apart like 4 frets each, 4 notes each, and the goal behind them is to kind of have like a certain like consistency. So you can play the same thing on different sides, and I could explain it to you actually one time the way I understood it. And maybe that'll be like I actually like enjoy explaining it to people because I think the beauty of music theory is the fact that it is still very much math. Like the guy who created it was Pythagoras. And well, he didn't create it. I think he like the myth behind it is it came from Hermes because that's the first like the harpish thing that they have that used to play with. And Pythagoras was walking one day and he heard like two different notes from two different sides. Well, ideally, I just do something until it's boring, and when it's boring, there's the consistency, and that's the next video. I'm gonna actually talk about it right now. And there's the consistency of like doing something that you know until it becomes boring. When it's boring, that means you kind of have to, you're over it. Whatever it is you're doing, you're over it. But then you have to kind of like jump into a bit more chaotic state where you just kind of, you have to decide, you have to experiment. But most of the time, we don't really like want to spend time experimenting, at least me, because I get a bit like antsy. It's like I'm ready, I want to get it over with, I want to get to that point. So there's this balance, and we can use guitar strings as well to explain it. That'll be fun. We can use strings to explain it because I think Buddha or in Buddhism it's explained that way. It's like the nirvana is explained in the using the sitar. and it's the balance between too tight and not tight enough. That's where you get the right notes. And so it's the balance between rigidity and like structure, and chaos is where kind of like the actual like the beauty the beauty grows. Like the tree requires like all kinds of like it requires rain and it requires sunshine in order for it to kind of like grow. It's always these like the duality of our nature. It's the seven hermetic principles that are kind of like established over and over again. But right now, I'm getting away from the whole randomly picking stuff or like trying to understand what are the stuff that I would want to pick in order for me to elevate my skills. And I'm diving into like the consistency behind like building them and moving forward and being able to kind of like adjust a certain kind of way and open my mind to a certain thing. And I think right now I'm at a level where I'm like looking at myself more as as more as a getting becoming a professional in the things that I'm doing, especially the way I look at the guitar and I discuss the guitar. And I don't know, all of these at one point were not something I was confident in. But I'm not sure if it's the passage of time or if it's just the fact that I actually like my interests right now. I realize that like even if I talk to basic musicians right now that sound good and play good, I can actually like discuss music better than they do. So that kind of like starts giving me like a bit of confidence. And the same with programming, because a lot of programmers kind of like don't really know what they're doing. They just know that's how it works, or at least that's these are the people I talk to, and it it's kind of disappointing. So this kind of like difference is like allowing me to see things differently. So I'm super pumped and super excited for this month. I cannot express it enough. And thank you guys for listening. The video after this is going to be like raw. It's going to be the difference between, well, it's just chaos and structure.